Worlds is consistency, and we see that time and time again from the Korean teams. We do not see that time and time again from the other regions, and that I think is why you see them, falter at Worlds, and why we saw so many #1 seeds, getting eliminated is because of the lack of consistency, not because of how good they can be at their best. When you look at G2, TSM, EDG, and the Flash Wolves all falling out in groups, it's not because these teams can't have great moments, it's because they didn't have great moments consistently over 2 weeks. And that is what it takes to succeed at Worlds.
And this is all before we even begin the conversation around the meta and the way it's developed here at Worlds, right? It's usually when we get to those best of fives, when people start bringing out those pocket picks, we start seeing the MF supports of last year really throwing wrenches and stuff. Exactly. So it's going to be exciting to see which of these teams, again, in practice. We got the Caitlyn innovation here, and which ones will be quick to adapt and who will come in kind of striking the first blow in those best of fives.
I think that is going to be super exciting, also because we know that the Korean teams are usually so confident about making it out of groups that they're willing to save strategies. They're willing to hold back things. When you think about MF in the semifinals, Rocks versus SKT, that was not shown at all. Zyra became a big pick in the quarterfinals and going forward, not in the group stages. I'm very excited to see what innovation is going to come forward, and also, honestly, how the brackets shape up, because we could have one side of the group with 3 Koreans. We could have them split up across. If you get that 3 Korean side on one side, it almost has an amazing chance for the LPL.
I've got to cut you off because it is now time for us to go ahead and send it down to the LPL's Rendong for the draw of our knockout stage matchups.
淘汰赛阶段的抽签仪式现场，大家好，我是任舵。
大家好，我是余生。
是的，那么曾经怀揣着冠军梦想的24支战队，到目前为止只剩下最后的8支战队了。那么接下来让我们一起来欢迎一下他们。首先，分别是 SKT、龙珠。
Running through the teams of Pool A. These are the first seeds out of their group. Wolf, the representative from SKT, Gorilla of Longzhu, Ming of RNG, and Zero of WE. On the flip side, we've got the second seeds qualifying through. Jensen from C9, Caps from Fnatic, Kuve of Samsung Galaxy, and Maxlor of the Misfits.
You have to love how happy Caps is there.
He can't help himself. They made it.
I mean, they did what EDG almost did. And the fact that we almost had 2 teams go through like that is phenomenal.
It's always nice, though, that we got both EU and NA out to quarterfinals.
Running through some of the rules, of course, don't worry. We've got plenty of people behind the scenes checking every single one of the picks to make sure that the draws are validated, and we will deliver that information to you as we receive it.
我们接下来将要请出今天的抽签嘉宾，让我们欢迎 OMG Icon。
有请 Icon。So Icon.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, Icon is the mid laner for OMG. A lot of people will recognize as Cool was the former big mid laner, but he actually transferred teams to Newbie and then to LGD.
Where do I get my hands on a suit like that?
He is very handsome.
Woo! 接下来请 Icon 开始进行抽签。
Beginning the draw. Our first team draw will be Royal Never Give Up.
Of course, RNG started out very strong in their group and then continued to solidify it on the back half, really just marching through everyone with a very fast and furious style.
好的，有请 Icon 继续抽签。
Next up, the reigning champions of SK Telecom T1.
You have to feel like everyone is going to be hoping to dodge Samsung. I think that is really the #2 seed that no one wants, because although they showed a lot of weaknesses, we know how high their highs are, talking about teams who can improve.
They did take SKT to a Game 5 in finals, which had never really been done before. So that is one of the reasons why you truly want to get
WE, the third team picked, will go to the opposite side of the bracket.
Zero can't quite figure out where to look on the screen. He's like, what, over there? No, over here? Got it.
请 Icon 继续抽签。
No surprises there. Longzhu, the last of the 1 seeds.
And this does mean this opposite side of the brackets for Longzhu and SKT looking like. So, that is potentially something that could be set up for that finals.
I mean, the 2 Chinese teams as well, right? course, as we are completed with the Pool 1 draw, we'll be moving on to Pool 2. No Pool 2 team can be on the same side of the bracket with the Pool 1 team from their group. That's the important thing to remember here.
So we're going to be doing a lot of shuffling, probably, until we can slot everyone correctly.
C9, they slid in here at the end as SKT helped them out. Yep. Let's see where they end up. Team WE will be their matchup.
And I actually think that's the most preferential draw possible for Cloud9. Still WE looking incredibly strong, but that is something that seems assailable. It feels like if Cloud9 play at their best, they may be able to have a chance.
Bit of a traffic jam there.
RNG's like, we'd like to play them. There it is. I want to confirm just for the viewers that this is correct. C9 versus WE, just so there's no confusion.
Have bees in his collar? Because that is some style that I want to take.
His name is literally Icon. I don't know what you want.
Our next team to be drawn from Pool 2, who's it going to be?
Fnatic.
And it's the European LCS's Fnatic.
Yeah, speaking of just sliding in there, Fnatic made the hero run.
Captain's like, me? I'm on Fnatic. Oh, I
am. RNG Fnatic. What are our thoughts on this matchup? That's a scary LPL squad.
It is a very scary LPL squad. I think so many people are going to be hyped for Reckless versus Uzi. Ooh. Two of the biggest bot lane stars in the entire world going head-to-head.
Only two teams left to be drawn, Samsung Galaxy and Misfits. And it will be Samsung Galaxy of the LCK.
Gonna have to see where they go, because that really is the second seed that everyone's talking about, and it's gonna be an all-Korean affair. That is a spicy quarterfinals.
That matchup is going to be quite something, because Samsung will have to really bring the heat if they want to keep up.
This means that the last matchup will be SKT Misfits. We will, of course, complete the draw just to confirm. But, oof.
The suspense, it's Misfits.
And while it is SKT, and yes, SKT is the favorites, and yes, they're the three-time world champions, they showed a lot of weakness in the early game, where Misfits really did excel, so maybe a way in for this team.
Who looks more beatable out of the LCK team, Samsung or SKT?
Samsung.
Going through the matchups one more time for clarity.
肯定会在广州上演属于所有英雄联盟的一场非常精彩绝伦的一场又一场的好戏。
I mean, Misfits, the team that says that they want to win it all. What better way to do so than the first quarterfinal match against the reigning champions?
Yeah, I mean, challenger to quarterfinals. How about challenger to semifinals, taking down the world champions?
Well, that brings a close to the knockout stage draw, which means that we get some time to talk about 4 very intriguing matchups. So, what's the first one you guys want to jump at?
Samsung Longzhu. That's really the one that seems like there is a smaller disparity between the two teams. So that's the one that I want to see. Even though I think you can almost always expect Longzhu to come out ahead on this one, I think that's the one where you'll have the closest game out of all of them.
There's also a huge stylistic mismatch there. You have Longzhu, who are just the sprinters coming out of the finish line. They've got the crazy, wacky picks. And then you have Samsung Galaxy, very slow, patient, methodical, as well as the cool clash between Cuvée and Khan.
And I'm really excited to see it because it has been that stylistic difference, and because of the adaptations and the changes we've seen in the Week 2 meta. You know, the Caitlyn coming in and some of these different picks that have been coming out and really kind of shaking things up, because Longzhu, we know their style. They stayed true to that style in the LCK. They stayed true to that style in the group stage. And I think that Samsung will have to make some adaptations, but there's been kind of a sampling of choices that have been presented by some of these teams in Week 2, and they can maybe try to find out what best fits their style.
All right, well, that, of course, is only one of the 4 matchups. We have, of course, C9 drawn against WE. At first glance, your gut check was perhaps the most preferable draw for C9?
I actually kind of think that this is almost like mini Longzhu versus mini Samsung in a sense.
It is those 2 times in a row world champions, 3 times overall SK Telecom T1 Huni in the top lane. Peanut maintains his position in the jungle. Faker, Bang, and Wolf. And your coach, of course, it's Coma.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult game here for AHQ. Look, last time they did challenge SKT, of course, Faker ran that Fizz, but it just kind of fell apart in the mid game, didn't it, Papa Smitty?
And that was kind of my take as well. I must admit, I walked in a little bit late during the Champ Select. I saw Fizz against AHQ, and I was like, not against Westor, surely. Wasn't Westor on the day. But I actually thought that AHQ played well around Westor's pressure. They roamed really well. SKT had kind of a weird invasion pattern early in the game, trying to really get in the face of Mountain. SKT, I don't think has the tonic together yet to really dominate Worlds like we might have expected, but they're still SK Telecom, so hopes are high.
It was curious from SKT in that game, to say the least, but I do have to commend AHQ. They were very quick to the punch, they did not hesitate, and they kept up.
Yeah, and of course, two members that continue to perform throughout the week one, Bang and Wolf, rock stars on the SK Telecom side. Right, we're jumping into week two. We'll talk more about the individual players as we get into game. But something we were talking about over the course of week two is how each group has their own unique meta, their own flavor. And something I want to keep my eyes on is the Shen, and whether or not it becomes more impactful as the day goes out or whether it disappears.
Bit on the nose with the impactful comment there, because Impact, of course, has been our best Shen so far at Worlds 2017. But that's kind of been the thing that I'm most exuberant about. I sat on Worlds tonight last week and I said, wow, it feels like things have stagnated. Where's the proactivity? Yeah. Some teams were proactive, some teams had new reads on the meta. We have Cloud9 with their aggressive junglers. So I'm hopeful, Rusty, that we get more innovation.
We have seen a whole bunch of it, and I agree with what you guys are saying as well. This may be the Shen group, because we've already seen it to be super successful, and perhaps speculation would be that Shen is in the banned column in this group, but not yet.
Not just yet, but Killister once again finds herself there, the 80th ban of the tournament. Huni will have his Cho'Gath denied, and if I run through the rest, Zyrakan removed from AHQ, as well as Talia, Galio, and Kalista. So first pick, where are we going, Pop Smitty?
Very interesting. I mean, Janna has been rising in priority. People have decided that they flip-flopped on where they started Worlds group stages at. It was Lulu over Janna. Now it's largely Lulu into Janna. SKT as a team have been opting into bot lane, heal barrier, defensive lanes. So I think they're happy to take whatever. I would imagine it's going to be the Lulu, and they'll just lock it in.
Yeah, well, no hesitation as well, looking at the Jarvan with it, a champion that has seen some conflict on the Rift. Really good performances, but also some shaky ones. If you look back to Flash Wolves yesterday, having pretty rough showings. However, great champion, really big engage tool, and can navigate around Janna exceptionally well by being able to ult over the Monsoon or over the Howling Gales.
Let's see, where do AHQ go next? We've obviously got a number of those high-tier AD carries still available. Tristana up as well. Arn's going to decide to lock in the Kog'Maw. Played it once last week. Was a defeat, unfortunately.
I'm very interested to see how SKT navigate the solo lanes of AHQ, because Faker versus Westor, in terms of play, we know it to now in 2017 be a bit of a mismatch. You do see Faker as someone who can take the ascendancy, like we saw Scout, for example, doing very notably in EDG versus AHQ. But do you just lock in a lane-dominant mid lane, a Syndra, for example, early, and then actually focus on the one tumultuous lane to me, which is the top lane? Ziv is phenomenally talented, and Huni has had up and down performances. We actually see a Gragas very early here, which suggests that we're probably seeing Jarvan or Gragas top.
And staying with that similar sort of pattern that we continue to see throughout week one, AD carries potentially to be banned out. Alternatively, AHQ can remove the likes of that Syndra or some of those other comfort picks on the side of Faker. There's never really an easy answer with only two bans against that man.
I mean, the easy choice here would be a Twitch and a Tristana potentially away from Bang, two very strong champions that you may not want to give him when you've got the Kog'Maw and the Janna running around. Maybe not match the scaling, force them into something earlier.
And the thing you take away here is if you wanted Tristana, you were going to take it earlier. If it was a different team, one of these tempo teams likes to crash the turrets early and rotate, Tristana would have been taken. But SKT have been playing so scaling focused. They are not interested in taking risks in the early game, playing the proactive style that I know I ascribe to be the best way to play. So far, no Tristana priority from SKT, but no Tristana ban either.
And expectations here from SK Telecom, which is why I like AHQ's ban, is that it will be a Maokai locked in for them, because they've gotten rid of the Renekton, they've gotten rid of the Gnar, and they want to have those top lane tanks there.
But they already have Gragas and Jarvan locked in.
Actually, yeah.
Renekton is very strong in lane
Both
against Jarvan.
In my head.
That's okay. You got that on the mind, but the Renekton does well against Jarvan. I think it will just be the Jarvan top, and they go for a lane priority choice at going for Varus, who we also saw from Prey has the late game damage as well.
Absolutely the case, and definitely one of these sort of sleeper hits in the AD carry role. Varus here at Worlds 2017, definitely putting up some great performances. We touched on the Shen already. Game 1 here, locked in for Ziv. And I see a protect the AD carry comp if ever I've seen one. What is the door run to close it out?
Does the Orianna, perhaps?
That would
know
be...
it's not the best Ori, but Ori could just fizz into Faker.
We get the doors fizz.
No, we get the doors blind fizz against the best player of all time. This is definitely the way we go. We were talking in the story meeting. Who would play? Would it be Westor versus Chowie? It had to be Westor getting one shot against Faker before Worlds was over. He went with the blind pick and the reverse matchup from years ago.
Please lock in the captain. It is the reverse matchup from semifinals 2015. In fact, it's the exact matchup.
Yep.
Exact matchup with Faker running Cassidy into Fizz all the way back. That was when it was a 3-0. The rest of the games didn't go in favor of Westor as well, but this was a bit more of an even match.
And there was a solo kill by Westor in that game. It's the game you remember when you think of Westor versus Faker. It traps you into thinking that actually it was Westor doing well overall. That was the game where Westor stood strong, even against Faker.
All right, let's step back. Rusty, what do we see when we look at these two team compositions? I see that split pusher in Fizz on the side of HQ, and the rest of it screams, keep on alive.
Yeah, it's definitely protecting that Kog'Maw with two big tanks to stand in front of him. The wild card is definitely going to be the Fizz from Westor. And what's interesting is that SKT chose to match the Fizz, have the teleporting mid laners, have the potential 1-3-1 there for both teams respectively. And that does raise some questions as to why AHQ would take them on in that.
You know that Koma has a large voice in SKT's team comps, but when he's a blind Fizz lock-in, I bet Faker's voice gets suddenly louder. He wants to opt into it. Both teams have strong 1-3-1, but 1-3-1 plus Shen is an extra global, so it's an extra variable for SKT to consider.
Oh, so exciting in game 1 here in our final day of groups. It's like a present being unwrapped, and it's fitting that the Gragas skin that Peanut's running is the Christmas one as well. Papa Smithy, we're jumping into AHQ taking on SKT. And for the miracles to align, the equinox, as Crumbs called it, AHQ needs to start picking up some wins, and so do EDG. We'll see if they can start right now.
And on the side of SK Telecom, it's all about, okay, you won 3 games, but interestingly, it was a bit of a slow one for SKT. We'll definitely be able to complement that with some stats and things, but SK Telecom still have questions to answer, even if the record looks clean.
Yeah, and whilst the early game may be a question for SKT, it hasn't been a major strength for AHQ either, respectively, for themselves. And this is one thing you would look at in this matchup and say, well, AHQ need that if they want to beat SKT at all. Early pressure, some kind of control on Summoner's Rift is very important.
I mean, you look at this game and AHQ have almost looked at the same stats that we did and say, wait, SK Telecom's playing for the late game, we'll go for scaling. They've had famous games at Rift Rivals against EDG this tournament where their late game team fighting wasn't a question. But you're against SK Telecom, the team that already this tournament has had massive turnarounds, 10,000 gold behind, and made it work. So fighting with fire is certainly a risky choice against SKT.
Well, let's see whether or not the door can lead AHQ to victory. Double teleports on both sides. Obviously, that Stand United is going to be pivotal. And if Ziv and Westor can combo, maybe around Arn, maybe around these side lanes, and attack SKT in that early game, Papa Smithy, that is that opportunity, and that's what I want to see them do.
It certainly is, and using Shen aggressively around level 6, something I'd like to see. EDG mentioned that the Shen was a headache, but we weren't seeing them being super proactive. I want to note a small stat, actually. It's actually Westor's first game of Fizz this year. It hasn't been a cornerstone of his champ pool. 1 game of TF right at the end of the season in the playoffs. No Fizz the entire year, and then blind Fizz against Faker. This is playing the opponent, not necessarily playing his own tendencies.
When your back's against the wall, fall back to your best champion, your most famous champion. Let's expand a little bit on the SKT early game struggles, gentlemen, because it is, you know, still a team is 3-0, but their goal difference at 15 minutes, minus 1,000 gold, 12th of the teams here in groups. Damage at 15, low as well. Opponent towers, they've conceded a whole bunch.
And it's a story that SKT have dealt with year after year. Ramping up in week 2, week 1 being a little bit weaker. You look at the stats here, goal difference at 15, 12th out of the 16 teams in the group stage, 14th in every other stat basically here. They are not having proactive early games. They're opting into scaling. So while the scoreboard does read 3-0, I think the same question marks about adaptation, about showing something new, should be raised about SKT.
I think they took that adaptation and they ran away with it in these games last week. They are playing very passively, and a lot of that is through the jungle position where Peanut hasn't been super proactive running around on the Rift.
Let's see where Peanut is right now. Already done that clear, started on the scuttle in the top corner of the map, give a little bit of additional coverage for Huni. And keeping a close eye on the rest of the lanes, we've got a pretty standard farm alarm here as the game opens up. Huni gets the flag and drag, Ziv replies with a small taunt, and it's just some cheeky trading back and forth, and nothing really to speak of yet. I'm looking to see where the junglers prioritize their first ganks.
There's a very real chance that if you're the Gragas here, you'd be looking towards the top side when it bounces back, so not immediately, but it's a really good place to get a Jarvan rolling in. He can influence the rest of the map extremely well. But the other thing to do with this top lane you mentioned earlier, Quickshot, is the fact that Fizz can go up there could affect that, but if you get to mid-game, he could affect that even better. Most Jarvans will go 2 offense items. Fizz can assassinate that very handily because they both have teleports. The map presence from that play is very significant.
And taking a step back, when we look at lane priority, Jarvan certainly will have the pushing options in the early game against the Shen, so top lane you'd go to SKT. Varus, Lulu is a very oppressive pushing lane in bottom. So in 2 lanes, they actually have the ability to potentially invade around the pressure of Peanut. Peanut largely has spent this tournament around top and mid lane providing wards, almost a throwback to Benki of last year, and famously his playstyle. He has not been invading like a lot of Worlds fans saw at Worlds 2016. This is the sort of game where if they play around their priorities, they have a lot more flexible options just because they've adapted their draft a little bit to have some presence in the early game.
All right, well, let's see where that presence appears, gentlemen, because it's about 5 minutes in. Double buffs for both the respective junglers. You can see Peanut starting to make his way towards that middle lane as Bang and Wolf are shoving in on an Albus. And I was going to have a little bit of farming duty under the tower. No real surprises here. It feels like I'm looking at some of the CS differences. Faker's already got a healthy lead in that mid lane, but again, into Fizz early levels, you kind of expect that.
Yeah, you definitely do. Fizz has some outplay, and there are instances where he might be closer to equal, but it's dependent on the trades, and Faker expertly with the Kassadin is throwing out at the correct time, and has been doing very well.
And I love to see Peanut playing around that priority. You can see the triangle of wards already put on the bot side jungle. Doesn't spot anyone right now, but lets them know that Sejuani is inevitably going to be on the top side of her jungle. So a lot of information here. Even knowing when a camp respawns gives a team a lot of information about where the enemy jungler is going to be.
Yeah, thank you to the observers for highlighting those wards, of course, giving some safety to Bang and Wolf, allow them to keep pushing. Bang this tournament, I was saying in the pregame, just great performance. Bang and Wolf is a duo, but specifically looking at Bang, post-Rift rivals in at Worlds.
And that was unfortunately where Bang really started to fall away in terms of regular season play, was after Rift rivals. The numbers don't necessarily turn your nose up. It weren't necessarily Bang being a low tier 80 carry in Korea, but he lost a lot of his luster, and I think a lot of that actually, Quickshot, was the meta evolving. We lost the Enchanter supports that Wolf is strongest at. It's usually the Lulus. He looked great on the Nami famously, and the Zyra way back when at MSI. But as the meta favorite engaged, there were these little moments where Bang would be caught many more times than you would expect for a player of his caliber. And now, with us going back to Janna, back to Lulu, back to Enchanter supports, he looks oh so much more comfortable, and Wolf alongside him is still great.
And to give some extra context for the CSD at Worlds specifically, he's played 2 Twitch games and a Kog'Maw game. They're not exactly win lane champions, but he is playing so incredibly well with Wolf as a duo that they've been able to get leads like that, and that is something that probably shouldn't happen.
Well, shouldn't happen, and we'll see whether or not Bang and Wolf can accelerate ahead. They're even with Arn and Albus into this Kog'Maw Janna lane. It's still around a 10 CS game in the middle, and Rusty, as you were mentioning earlier, Huni already returned to lane to that teleport. He's got himself the Tiamat. Level 6 for Westor and teleport, so there is a potential King of Demacia, or Prince of Demacia, that could be jumped on.
It definitely is. It's a place that I will be keeping my eyes peeled towards. Having the Tiamat, you can see contrasted by Ziv's Barmy Cinder, means they'll both be focusing on clearing the waves, which to me speaks that AHQ's strategy may be around 5 people towards the bottom side of the Rift. You know that Peanut, as you mentioned, Papa Smithy loves the top and mid sides. Well, there's a very obvious place that you can go that isn't where Peanut is.
And definitely, and I like to see where Ziv goes from here. A lot of top laners on Shen will actually go Barmy Cinder into Tiamat for the most possible wave clear. If they are worried about the potential for Peanut to take over Mountain's jungle, you go double early game, focused wave clear items, and try to match pace with the Jarvan, if not actually have the skills to eclipse the Jarvan.
All right, well, first teleport already being used. Down the bottom lane, a number of pings from SKT.
Yeah, Peanut spotted him quite a while ago. Didn't have the vision, but was physically there to see him. It was only Westor's teleport, so don't take too much from it. He's just going back to his middle lane anyway, seeing what they could perhaps get done by poking their heads around.
Yeah, maybe a little optimistic or opportunistic. However, nothing really gained or lost. It's still a small advantage for Faker, and he's going to maintain that teleport. So important to note that Faker can react to a Stand United play if it were to break out offensively in the next few minutes. And we continue just this even farming game, and it's going to be an interesting mid game because there is a lot of engagement, a lot of potential for engage on both sides. If anyone is caught napping, if anyone's vision starts to fall behind, and look at this Mountain already bullied out of his jungle.
But that's because Westor is bottom lane right now. It's the EDG mantra from AHQ right now. Find any opportunity to go towards the bottom lane, get your Cogmore ahead, and when it's ahead, you have a win condition. But you have to remember what they concede, what they sacrifice, and give away to make that happen at all. Right now, it's a Fizz's blue buff.
Yeah, you're getting Cogmore even CS by basically clearing out any bot lane pressure, but you are giving bonus objectives to the side of SKT. So SKT playing around pressure, something they haven't been able to do because that was not the mantra of their drafts in week 1. It's not a surprise that they're showing that, but it's good to see some strategic flexibility as they roll into an inevitable best-of-5 thing.
And we're going to be looking towards the rest of the games today as well. 3 games per team minimum. How much growth have we seen? The analyst desk was talking about the ridiculous win-loss of the SKT organization and franchise in groups. Yet we can still look at clear weaknesses, clear areas of opportunity that could get punished. And it's up to AHQ to demonstrate over the last week. They have learned, they have adapted, and importantly, they can do so.
That worry that history will repeat itself. Albus is very aggressively trying to hold the lane here for his AD carry.
Done so well. 2 minions have died, and Arn should be able to get that last one as we catch a quick glimpse in the mid lane. Flash still available for Faker. Let's see where the CC comes from. There's the permafrost as well. Chumba wants his tags from a good distance. First blood to Westor.
Very simple.
They held on to everything for just the right time. Really clean execution there. Getting first blood for Westor on the blind pick Fizz will only help the mentality of AHQ.
And super awesome to watch the mind game from Mountain against Faker. They forced the flash out of him. He knew that it was happening sooner or later and just casually walks up to get the 4th auto attack. Guaranteed stun. From that point, Faker probably shouldn't flash at all.
Really well done by AHQ. Get themselves a small advantage. And of course, the kill secured by Westor is just fantastic. Here's a replay of the mechanics.
Yeah, and again, you'll see that the first spells hit the flail from Mountain. Westor's done most of the work so far. Hits the fish as the stun connects, and really good layering of CC from them. And then Westor and Mountain's awareness of Peanut was the other big substantial thing there. They tried to dodge the cast.
There was actually vision over that wall. I feel like it was just the decisiveness caught Faker unaware, and in the end of the day, he falls. Like you say, the mind game for Flash. Unfortunately, the Sejuani's faster, so there was no way for him to stop a literal melee range ultimate, so he chose a Flash, it failed. Very nicely engineered by HQ.
And it manages to give them a minor advantage, though. A huge amount. Westor continues to trade with that Urchin Strike, and first items were picked up, gentlemen. It's actually SKT a little ahead of the curve. That Rod of Ages completed. Bang going for a Wit's End first item. Obviously going to be benefiting the rest of the squad as well, but that's a little against the norm that we're usually seeing with that Rage Blade first.
Yeah, for me, that's just by spiking sooner and also spiking as a skirmish with more than 2 people in the fights. Lulu does a little bit more damage as a result of it, with an Ardent Sensor spike having ability power, but Kassadin now is also super relevant, as is Gragas, if they're hitting the same target that Bang is, and that could be a result of, if we fight, peel for Bang.
And it's the sort of thing that I want to sit back and really think about to try to uncover why, because we know that Rageblade's synergy with particularly the Ardent Sensor is the big reason you'll rush Rageblade, because it's on hits, and of course once you get the Ginsu's Rage with 6 auto attacks, you're applying them twice, you're getting the big on-hit healing. To me, I look at this with a double teleport team and I say, I get Wits in for damage for fighting early, and that means probably going to see some 5v5s in the bot lane if things go SKT's way.
I love it when there's parties in the bot lane. It gets me very excited.
We're in China. It's what happens here in every game of League of Legends, as far as I'm aware.
Is that true, Rusty?
Can confirm. We love bottom lane a lot. A whole lot of bottom lane.
All right, let's see whether or not it'll go SKT or AHQ's favor, because it's still an even game. Ardent Sensor picked up by Albus, so he's slightly ahead of the timing. But I want to just draw our attention to the CS differences for Westor. Still around 9 CS down as we're approaching 15 minutes. Westor's CSD at 15 in groups has not been great. Minus 31, as you can see on screen. And we'll see whether or not the potential kill threat here, or at least engaged threat, can help cover some of that negativity.
The weirdest thing about Westor in the middle lane is how much time he spends out of lane, but not necessarily working with Mountain, just being invisible. Sometimes he'll go bottom lane, we saw this in this game already, by himself, just to have a look to see if he can get something done. Teleports to look at something with Mountain, doesn't commit to it. All of this time, Faker is farming, or his opponent mid laner is clearing the wave before they roam, and that's a lot of the CSD that he's having negatively for Westor.
Saw the roam around top blue buff, now we're seeing the same sort of roam here.
Smited by Mountain. And just to pick that up, I think Peanut smoked just a little early in that one.
So it seems like both teams in general are doing what their drafts and where their pressure lies. So far it's been very ordered, if not a very explosive game. Faker, besides going down, has had control of the lane because Cassidy has a targeted ability to harass. Doesn't have to get into melee range, so despite it being melee versus melee, when it comes to actually contesting the creeps, you're taking free damage if you're the Fizz.
But I will say at this stage in the game, it's better for AHQ than SKT for this to be happening. For a Lulu Varus to go even with a Kog'Maw Janna is not something you want to happen in the game at all. It's a nice flash.
Great flash from On, getting out of range of that Chain of Corruption, but rinse and repeat, right? Now the window is open for that bot lane party, gentlemen, here on Chinese soil.
And bot lane parties haven't been SKT's game plan so far at Worlds 2017. They've had Peanut play around covering mid and top. You see Witsand, you see an adjusted playstyle. The itemization supports what we're seeing the jungler doing. And it's good to see that sort of ordered decision-making that even on reflection, even on a VOD review, you'd compliment for SKT. But the question is, does AHQ realize that and just really reinforce their bot lane?
I mean, it has been a week, right? It has been, 7 days since the last time these teams have, 8 days since they've taken to the stage, and we know the support staff for HQ, we know their adaptation ability, we've seen it multiple years in a row. Mountain is going to bully Peanut out of his jungle. Flashes are available. Now Mountain's going to get collapsed on. Look at Faker coming in from the side. Stand United starts to get channel. Mountain may not survive the full channel. Chum the Waters comes in, buys enough time for Zip to arrive. Here comes Westor, 1-for-1. Junglers are down. Zip's looking for Faker. He's forced to run. Peanut blew his flash to survive. It ends up being a trade, top for jungler.
Yeah, Fizz was second to react, but has the easy ability to get over the wall. Was a max range fish as well. The Fizz is now 2-0. Faker picked up kill credit as well. But it took so long to actually burn down the first target that it ends up going even between AHQ and SKT. And we noted also, as that started, Mountain was actually 2 levels up in experience over Peanut.
And amazingly, he still is, even though he's the one who dies in that trade for AHQ. And a lot of this, we said it at the start of the day, Shen exists. Shen is level 11, biggest shield coming out of him. He's able to influence this, what looks like a great collapse from SKT, by enough time for Sejuani to put in overtime. Stays alive, does extra damage to everybody, and then a max range fish will connect as well. And it's that length, duration of time that he spends alive that even lets AHQ trade at all.
Great play and counterplay. Gives AHQ a 600 gold lead. And as you mentioned, that level difference was 2 levels. There's 1,000 gold in favor of Mountain. Got themselves a couple of assists under his belt as well, which will help out in that case. And then a 20 CS difference at the moment between Westor and Faker, but Westor's supplementing that CSD difference with those kills. And of course, got the Proto Belt, got the Sheen. How much money does Arn have to go back and spend? 3K in the bank.
Yeah, just a bit.
Arn has survived laning phase extremely comfortably, and I think AHQ will be very happy with this.
And yeah, this is mostly for the back. You don't want to gank for someone that has 3,000 gold, more than half the gold they have had in this game in the inventory. At this particular point, is helping the push there. Mountain's basically unkillable right now. This early in the game, having almost a full Warmogs and Cinderhawk is insanely tanky.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm watching this game and I'm thinking to myself, if I turn the nameplates off, I really like this Kog'Maw, Shen, Sejuani going even and maybe even ahead, you know, at this stage. But then I turn the nameplates on and I go, is this really what you want to be doing against SKT?
Yeah.
Like, going into their strong zone. Now, Peanut's being bullied again. Mountain's actually flashed for this one. Great barrel to send Westor away. Chumba Waters did tag him. Westor continues to re-engage. Another permafrost. Peanut gets eaten. Faker's going to rift walk away to safety, and Peanut is just getting bullied by Mountain.
Yeah, completely bullied out. Really well done from the Sejuani once again. It's not the first time the Mountain's been moving into Peanut's jungle, and this is reciprocity for Peanut going into his before. So where is there no vision for SKT? The other side of the rift. Why is Peanut where there is no vision? Let's take him down.
And it's also Westor on the front foot, happy to roam even though his flash was down. And Faker usually is second to the roams. He's happy to use his teleport on Kassadin. But when it's close to mid lane, teleport's not going to close the distance. But greedy for the farm, great timing on the invade, and Mountain can be the impactful frontliner to allow many things to come down. Get to see the replay here. Watch where Faker is. He has to deal with a minion wave. Teleport's not going to get him there faster, and the moment the fish lands, Peanut is dead.
Yeah, absolutely. Mountain just a very sticky Sejuani. Gives enough time for Westor, even though he was casked away to come back with the Proto Belt. Faker will get out, but, you know, he'll be all right.
And there's a little bit of synergy there because it is a melee mid laner. You do stack up the Sejuani passive faster in those skirmishes rather than the ranged champions that do not.
Gentlemen, I'm seeing Westor and Mountain synergy. I'm seeing the narrative points, the history that these two guys have. And we've seen Chowie and Westor started, and one of the discussions we had was how much better Mountain and Westor could be if they're performing well. I'm going to bring us right back to the question, though. Is 1,000 gold lead at 20 minutes enough? No, I'm not going to, because once again, Sejuani and Gragas going to be trading blows. That was the ultimate thrown out from Mountain just to dissuade any further follow-up. And it seems like both of these teams gesturing for Mountain control.
I think the moment you talk about how big a gold lead you need to take down SKT, you're baiting us, Trevor. You're trying to bait us in here because we already saw them take down EDG in what felt like a one game for EDG. You look at the comps and there's good scaling on both sides. If anything, AHQ having the Kog'Maw can actually be different. We saw Prey pop off on Varus, but still, there are definitely, this is not an outscale draft by SK Telecom necessarily. So it's one of those games where it feels eerily reminiscent of that game 8 days ago between these two teams. The question is, how do AHQ move from this point? Do they rotate their vision? Do they actually force objectives? Because Rusty, I was watching back SKT versus AHQ. Chowie had some nice roams, AHQ were ahead, and I heard the word force be used by the casters an uncomfortable amount of times. Force Barons, Force Dragons, Force Fights. They never managed to do that.
That's because it was uncomfortable watching it, Papa Smithy. They never forced anything, and they had a lead in that game as well. They had the tempo, they had control, and slowly but surely, when you hit mid-game, the last time these two teams clashed, SKT brought it back piece by piece until they were ahead, and then they team fought went ahead.
Well, it feels like Mountain is trying to force more things this time around. He's got in Peanut's face multiple times, challenging for vision. He's got that Warmogs completed, so any poke damage he takes will just get regen for any further invades. And if you look at the minimap, AHQ were ready for that. They were grouping. All right, take a quick look at Ziv. He's got the Tiamat as well as the Sunfire Cape, trading fairly evenly with Huni. We're 21 minutes in, and Ziv and Huni have not really been drawn into this game. But at some point, this will become a 5v5, and they will start joining.
So if I'm watching the VOD review, as the coach right now, I'm saying, okay, what would I, if I was on comms, if I was talking to the quarterback, tell them to do? It'd be something like this, Trevor.
Oh, my word. The prison onto Wolf, and they just come, oh, the taunt flash as well. Bang is the next target. There's a lot of armor to tower dive. They'll get at least one teleport, maybe more. Get stunned down. Spittle comes out as well. That's Faker's channel. And that's another kill for AHQ.
I love it when it comes on screen, just as I'm about to talk about it. Guess what, Trevor? With a Warmogs, you cannot kill the Sejuani. Turret dive, Varus and Lulu are plenty. They got the kill because they'd already been harassed down. But grouping up bot lane doesn't require a teleport ward. They have a Shen, and that's why that was the play to make.
They want Westor here.
See if they can find him. Westor uses the troll pole, flashes the barrel. Needed that one to get out, and Rusty, they did not kill him.
No, they didn't. SKT are trading as best they can, but it's still reactive to what AHQ are throwing at them. If the Mountain Drake's secured, big win for AHQ.
AHQ secure their first Mountain Drake of Worlds 2017. Howling Gale interrupts Faker for now, trying to body block. Mountain forced to flash, though. Not going to run the risk of getting caught, and AHQ, Mountain Drake, first tower, first blood, a 2,000 gold lead, and we're seeing proactiveness that was lacking last week in their defeat.
And we had some on-the-nose puns earlier. It is Mountain who is leading the charge. This is the lane to go to, because you don't need the deep blue side ward behind and have your Jarvan teleport. Shen can ride in on the unkillable Sejuani, comically tanky this early in the game, make the turret dive deeper than I thought it was going to be, but with how low the turret was, they just kept going.
Exactly, it was super deep, but the first turret blood was there for AHQ. They get that on most of the members of their team. I don't think they disperse that to a single person in particular, but this unlocks the map so much more for AHQ. Not only do they have the bottom lane outer turret, they can send that grouping towards the top side of the map if they wish. Shen much more available to help the team as well. Even though there is going to be a teleport for Huni, Shen's ult's not far away.
All right, Arctic Assault over the wall. Mountain is going to take a lot of damage. A little bit of slow thrown on the back end as Arn and Albus doing the best they can. Mountain is going to continue to run for his life. Westor still waiting in the wings. Got to be careful not to give up yet another kill. Mountain will get run down. No! The flash heal! Shield! Monsoon! Albus brings Mountain back from the brink. Now Westor first to use that troll pole to escape, and all of a sudden AHQ, they fancy themselves a shot. Will force a flash to save his life, and AHQ save their jungler.
So tanky is the Sejuani that you can have the counter roam by the mid lane Janna to make him live. And this game point, where we are at 23 minutes, is beautiful for AHQ. They take down the bot lane turret. They're happy to have Fizz and Cassidy match each other. They even have a teleport advantage on the Fizz. But in the mid lane, it's Rageblade and Hurricane done for the Kog'Maw already. He can just freely push, and the moment they decide to push, the Sejuani invades, and they repeat their invasion plan again.
Oh, no room for error on the side of AHQ. Continuing to do it. Faker's low on mana, got flash available to him. Dina doesn't have that ultimate either. Stun comes down, Faker's going low, forced to flash over the wall, gets just enough for one last Rift Walk to escape. And AHQ, by the way, secured the latest tower first blood of Worlds 2017. They still maintain a small gold lead here of around 2,000 gold. And when we look at AHQ's performances throughout Group Stage 1, they actually remained even for most of the time. They were not in a major lead, nor were they in a major deficit in comparison to how close they were.
And this feels a lot like the LMS special, just as much as it is AHQ. There's a Flash Wolves problem that they were running into as well. They get leads, but when you hit a point where you're not sure how to utilize that lead to finish off a game, AHQ with lesser amounts of leads granted, they still stagnate. They still stay in the same position as everyone hovers around them because they're not too sure where to go next, it feels like.
But loss minimization is a skill in League of Legends as well, and those games were all very different. The C9 game was definitely a C9 favorite game against AHQ, and yet largely they stayed within touching distance. To me, if you're a coach, you look at that and think, all right, well, I don't actually need to change things too much to slightly move that one way or the other. He's trying to look for it to be more of a lead, and in this game, it still isn't a big gold lead, but the tempo they're playing at, the way they're playing the Wanderer, and the fact that Mountain has gone from reactive to proactive makes you look at those stats and say, wait, could AHQ do this? Which is not something I would have said pre-group stage started.
Mountain being proactive, but also just picking the Fizz in the middle lane, to me, adds that extra layer for the composition.
Are we endorsing this, Rusty? The blind pick Fizz?
Look, I'm not endorsing blind pick, but I'm endorsing Fizz for AHQ and for Westor.
There is many impressionable solo queue players out there. They're going to hear that soundbite. They're going to take it away, so definitely temporary.
Papa Smithy, I have a message to solo queue. If you think you're the next Westor, pick your Fizz blind into Faker. Because if you can win with it, My word, what a message. Remember Wolf no flash from earlier? Manages to survive with wild growth. Oh, that's an aggressive flash forward. Will it pay off? The short answer is yes, as the barrel sends him to safety. May have saved Peanut's life as well. Tower number 2 falls and AHQ can continue the siege.
Mountain at any point has about 3,500 health with a Shen ultimate as well, so they keep turret diving. Faker's parked in a side lane. They're going to try and take a second turret mid.
Faker's not parked in a side lane. He's busy being battled by Westdoor. 2 towers in a row for AHQ. Finally going to go down as Arn takes a tower shot. Chum the Waters tags Faker, slows him down. AHQ can respond. Stand United being channeled as Faker manages to survive long enough. Flash away from Westdoor, gets away with the playful Trickster. AHQ are not done yet. 6 kills to 1.
Manages to survive just barely there. Westdoor from the reinforcements rotating from mid lane straight to bottom. Very clear plans coming out of the LMS side here. On the opposite side, Hooney's trading as best he can, but kudos to AHQ. They're being proactive. They're making the plays. Mountain is a monster.
And a lot of people come into Group A thinking it's SK Telecom, of course they'll win. And honestly, you feel guilty of that being an LCK caster when it's those toss-up games in Korea. But the thing that's happening more and more often this year, post-Rift Rivals, is that SKT have lost. They have not lost this game, but they haven't shown adaptation from the passivity and negative play they were showing in group stage. Compared to their 8 days of preparation time, I'm not seeing the SKT squad that, since we went to group stages, in group stage week 2s, they're 6-0. They've never lost in week 2 of a group stage.
I'm going to regret this. Is this the first time? It's a little early to say, but AHQ have got all of the ingredients and they are showing that growth, Papa Smithy, that we've not seen from SKT.
I'm so excited to hear Rusty's answer this question. What I will tell you, though, is that
even that thought.
Now say it.
Even if SKT win these games, it should be a caveat for expectations for them going forward because they're not showing change. They are being stubborn, and it still feels like weak victories, even if they do get over the line first.
I can answer this, or can I? Or are they going to fight? It's the question.
All right, Arctic Assault comes forward. I'm looking for the prison. Peanuts is already stunned. Chum the Waters. That's a great zoning ultimate. Not going to allow the escape. Wolf forced to use the Glacial Prison, and he's popped. On gets another. That's a double kill. Dash forward, flash away from Faker, using that Rift Walk instead, rather. Mountains on a killing spree. AHQ, 3 kills for 0.
And straight to the Baron for AHQ. They're not looking at the Mountain Drake. It feels like they've answered for me, quick shot. They are putting in work. They are getting engages, and they are winning these fights.
Both these AD carries have the same playstyle in fights. Want to stay in one spot, throwing out those hurricane bolts. But the difference is always when you have Rageblade versus Rageblade in the tank line, and Mountain can jump into everyone. The assault means that no one can get past him, and Bang is zoned out of damage in most of these fights.
AHQ get Baron. Extend the gold lead to 5,000. And here's a replay of that fight.
Once again, the awareness from Mountain of when to engage. Westdoor was a great zoning fish, as you mentioned, but the real MVP here is firstly Ziv tanking, but aren't able to freely deal damage. Compliments of a nice cast from the enemy team, knocking him forwards. Usually a curse, in this case a blessing, because it finds Wolf. When Wolf dies, Bang surely going to follow afterwards. No protection for the AD carry.
Well, there's a story and a half.
When you have a front line as robust as AHQ's, Arn does not drop auto attacks. Bang very early had to go up this cove towards the blue buff because he was afraid of dying, was killed at the end anyway, such is the reality of Avaris. We do not see Hooney and Peanut as a robust front line. If you think about it, why are they fighting? Hooney has a damn Ravenous Hydra. He is not set up to be a front line like Ziv and Mountain are.
Well, unfortunately for SKT, those questions mean another Dragon goes the way of HQ. 2 Mountains to help close out this game. Fitting, they had 0 leading up to this point, and you know, you look at the LMS as a region, and it's been a trying few international events, if we put it that way. Used to be known as the Korean Killers, you know, used to be able to take down LCK squads. And AHQ maybe keeping their playoff dreams alive, maybe keeping that crazy shenanigans possibility. Because this gives hope to EDG. This breaks the group open just a little bit more, Rusty.
It definitely does. AHQ with the right foot forward to try and close this game out. We know SKT are keeping themselves in it as turrets are being sieged, note that, yes, a Mountain Drake went to AHQ because SKT chose a turret. And then they chose a turret mid lane for the Drake again. They're trying to get gold. They've realized it's very important to have gold for items so they can at least match the fight that is being thrown at them.
All right, AHQ are matching the towers. That's the 6th that they've taken down. Westall trying to keep Faker away. Inhibitor is the focus, and keeping my eye on Huni, by the way, bullied out of lane by Ziv, so Ziv is going to push that one up. Level 17, that stands united at max ranks, and it will provide a gigantic shield to whomever is the target. AHQ playing this one patiently and controlled. 1 minute on Baron, multiple lanes pushing in their favor.
Note that Huni could have teleported onto the deep ward, but they don't want to fight. They don't feel like they can win if he flanks, so they're giving up the inhibitor for free.
And can AHQ get any more? Riftwalk to safety from Faker. Ziv peeled away from that top lane, and mid lane needs to be pushed back, but Super's in the bottom. This is going to give more control to...
It means that in about a minute from now, bottom lane will start to push for itself. They don't have a whole lot of Baron duration left, however, to utilize all 3 lanes pushing at the same time. They'll let bottom go in, it feels like. Mid lane, big priority because Ziv is doing so well against Huni. And if they ever keep Huni away from the team fights, he's a damage-dealing Jarvan that's stuck within the confines of his own base. That's really poor for SKT. They need to unlock Huni.
And that's why the build, to me, is a bit of a question, because it's really good at split pushing. He took down 2 of the turrets from AHQ's bot lane perspective, so he feels like he's done his job. But just like we saw when Samsung played Trundle, at some point you can't split push because the game is being lost in the 4. They don't have the vision or the map pressure to actually push out and have, say, for example, Kassadin matching Fizz and Jarvan matching the Shen. Shen will always have the advantage in a team fight if AHQ choose the time, because Stand United provides instant fight impact. We see Faker trying to chase down Westdoor, but seems optimistic at this point, Trevor.
Yeah, looking at the itemization, Protobelt, Hourglass, and Flash available for Westdoor. Obviously, Hourglass for Faker as well to complement that Roa and Lichbane. And of course, AHQ, they are the ones that have been forcing the fights. They have been the proactive ones. And coming into today, Papa Smithy, you were very critical of the lack of proactivity. We said it on the deck.
Well, proactivity is currently happening in the top side of the map, quick shot.
Oh, look for the flash interrupt from Mountain. May not be enough just yet. Huni locks everybody inside the baby cave. Teleport's going to be completed by Faker, but it's a 3-on-2. Redemption coming down from SKT, buys a few seconds longer. Mountain still on top of this game, leading the way for AHQ. Got the prison down, holding Faker in place. Riftwalk is used and Flash is still available, not yet needed. But the heads from Mountain to focus the next target, just beautiful to behold.
And the comms from SKT have to be questioned. Oh, okay.
All right, didn't quite see how that happened, but all of a sudden, Westall got insta-gibbed. That's what you expect from a player like Faker. And the crowd erupts.
All we can criticize is the first call. SKT choose to use the teleport on AHQ's side of the map when they knew the rest of the team wouldn't be there to actually be reinforcements. They were likely to trade down. The Westall kill does change things a little bit.
It does indeed. 30 seconds on that death timer. They can't use that pressure anymore, Rusty.
No, they certainly can't. Of course, not even having the teleport there for Westall means that he'll be walking back to base, to the lane rather. Shen still has everything up. Teleport there, not Stand United just yet, but he's still mobile, so he can still pressure side lanes. Remember, the bottom is starting to push in with super minions as well, but we get to have a look at what happens on the top side of the map.
Consider where the rest of AHQ are on their side of the map compared to where SKT is, and Faker completes his teleport. Westall will do enough damage to take him down, but they still invest in this. Alphas is always going to be there first. The Kog'Maw is going to react first. That's why Mountain looks for more targets. They don't find any more kills, but this was a losing fight choice by SKT.
Yeah, active choice to lose that fight. Westall didn't have a lot of health to his name. Good flash ult from Faker, though, out of range.
That's just a major oopsie that you cannot afford. Do you know, up until that kill, I genuinely bought into the hype that AHQ could win this game. Then Faker gets a surprise kill, and the amount of doubt seeping through me right now, but it is still a monumental defense that SKT have to pull.
And that is the reward you get for being 3-time world champions, for having Faker on your lineup. The lingering doubt never goes away, Trevor. I can tell you that much as a fact. But this is once again AHQ playing smarter than they did last week, growing the same lead that they were able to get against SKT last time. And SKT also making more of the mistakes. If you remember, those mistakes were often front-loaded. They were 15 to 20-minute mistakes. Now we're seeing 30 to 35-minute mistakes it does not look like the SK Telecom that everyone holds to that high standard.
And here's the thing for me, though. For AHQ, there's still absolutely hope. It's a 6K gold lead, 2 Mountain. I'm looking at the Baron over the Elder as a bigger priority. It's very good as a siege enabler for this side, and I do think they should be prioritizing that buff. But at the moment, it feels like they're prioritizing the team fight on getting the pick first before they go for the objective.
Hey, why not both? If you get the team fight, maybe you can look. Of course, that Elder Dragon not going to empower anything on the side of SKT. As AHQ are going to start this one off. SKT waiting in the wings. Faker can come from that blue buff, and AHQ decide to peel away. Chum the Waters once again forcing Bang's flash. Faker is off on the sideline looking for the engage opportunity. Cataclysm can come down. That is a great prison. Bang continues to get zoned away by Mountain, while Hootie and Faker get shut down inside the Cataclysm. Faker's going to have enough time to Rift Walk one last time. Now AHQ looking for more. Their super minions working their way towards the inhibitor, which has respawned.
And the question is, do they go for the end or just the inhibitor? With a teleport coming in, it's a risky play, but that's one carry gone.
It's only Bang with real ranged wave clear, and he flash so he can be easily collapsed on. I think AHQ is smelling blood.
Are they going for the game? Zip's going to tank up the Nexus turret. Now Peanut left
That's one gone.
That's one already down. The second is about to fall. AHQ, they're not being challenged. SKT, they can't stop them. AHQ are onto the inhibitor. They've turned for the kills, trying to get one or two more. And AHQ strike down SKT.
SK Telecom may be the best squad to ever play League of Legends, but they are not the best squad at Worlds 2017. They continue to go for very defensive comps, but they make mistakes. You can see Faker's face. He is mad.
For the first time in SKT's history, they drop a game in week 2 of the World Championships.
I sat there watching SKT's games from week 1 last night, reviewing, and said, I don't know how this team is 3-0. They feel like a 1-2 team with how they've played. Their late game team fighting has been picture perfect, but the passage to late game team fighting has had pitfalls left, right, and center. Every player in the early game has looked unfocused. The game plan, the aggressive teleports when they're behind, unfocused. SK Telecom have a lot to work on, and not time, Trevor. They have to play 2 games more today, and even if they get through, suddenly teams waiting for that quarterfinal draw will say, hey, maybe.
Maybe you want them. I mean, they're no exception to the rule of having some weaknesses here at Worlds, but credit where it's due to AHQ for having a fantastic performance. Namely, if we're going to pick a player on this team that stepped up to the plate, absolutely Mountain. That guy had an incredible performance. The engages, the aggression, something that we haven't seen from them in the first week was very prevalent here, and that was against SKT.
Near flawless. It felt like every time Mountain was somewhere, there was support for the rest of the team. I will forgive that single death from Westor now that they've won the game, but unbelievable performance in this now, but it really widens the whole group. If EDG start to pick up some wins, it just makes it very confusing.
The belief is there now, Trevor.
Oh, it really is. So AHQ managed to take down the undefeated SKT. For more, let's head over to the analyst desk.
Believe it, quick shot. What did I say? When everything seems certain, it means nothing is certain. AHQ with a big victory over the undefeated SKT at this point, moving to 2-2 and blowing the group wide open.
Yeah. And I think the stat that was pointed out is actually pretty absurd. This is their first time they've ever lost in week 2 of Worlds groups. So pretty insane that AHQ is the one to take them down. And I mean, SKT showed some real weaknesses, but a lot of credit, I think, has to go over to AHQ as well and how well they play.
Crumbs, isn't it just fitting that they do it with Westor's Fizz?
Yes, exactly. The Fizz was such a smart pick from here because if you watch SKT and the way they play, when they commit to Gragas, Jarvan, Varus, and Lulu already, you can expect them to go with a diving composition. It fits the theme of the meta. You want to dive the AD carry, and so I was expecting SKT to go with a Fizz and AHQ to go with just a standard mid laner, but taking it away was a huge deal because you already have a 1v1 split pusher that's going to be a relatively even lane, but you have Shen on top of it. So you win that matchup already. And then how is SKT supposed to kill the Kog'Maw if his build is effective? He built beautifully. You've got your Randuins, you've got your QSS, your Wits End. So they played the composition to a T for what SKT brought out. And this AHQ lineup all of a sudden, 2-2, they could actually be making a run for it.
And all that being said, we can get into the role, but I want to focus also on Mountain, because Mountain, I think, in the early game was incredible. Yes, Westor's Fizz was picking up a lot of the kills, but it's Mountain who was everywhere this game. He was out farming Peanut. He was controlling the lanes and finding gank after gank after gank, despite the immense amount of vision that SKT had around the jungle. And I just think that he deserves so much credit for this win, was involved in everything and straight up outplayed Peanut.
Yeah, and there's really only two options for AHQ in the early game in terms of how their composition came together. Either you look for the dive bottom because you have the Shen, you can get there first, or you continue to blitz into Peanut's jungle and use the Shen on the Sejuani, and then you follow it up with the Fizz, and that was kind of their key to success. And Peanut has kind of been very quiet. Yes, he's putting down a lot of vision, they're gathering a lot of information, but this isn't the heavy ganking style Peanut that we're used to seeing, of seasons past, of Rock's Tigers past. Right. He's almost been molded into Bengi-esque.
It's been neutered.
I guess, yeah. AHQ, they build themselves a small lead, but it's, the truth of watching an SKT game, when you look at a small, minor lead or something like that against them, and you say, I still have faith in SKT. There's still that opportunity for them to come back. We've got to wait until we see the team fights and watch a team actually close on them to come away with the victory. That's exactly what happens at 29 minutes of fight in the river. AHQ coming up big. This replay brought to you by Acer Predator.
All eyes really need to be on Albus and how he's going to play out this fight in particular, because it's how he doesn't get involved in all of the damage and then is able to hit the redemption, hit the heal, and bring his team back to life as soon as SKT try to make that dive.
And to me, this is kind of very reminiscent of the fight that SKT had against EDG, where they're massively down, they find the perfect combo, but this time the Janna is on the outside, does not get hit by any of the damage, channels a full ultimate, gets the redemption, throws down a shield, and when you are behind and you have that Ardent Sensor support putting out so much healing and so much shielding, you really can't punch through.
But the difference between this game against EDG or against AHQ and the one against EDG is that the draft from SKT did not have any comeback options. AHQ really stuffed them at every step of the way, and compare it to when they drafted against EDG, you have Orianna, you have Rakan, you have Twitch, you have a late game threat that you can actually capitalize on this. Here in this composition, even if you put it 6 items each, I actually don't see how SKT can come out ahead, because when you have the Janna, you have the Shen, how are you supposed to kill anybody? And once again, the syndrome of first picking Janna, I did not think it would spread to the SKT lineup, but it has, and they pay dearly.
So okay, all right,
I
will say, you're counting out Faker on Kassadin.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, you're talking about late game options. I think that I would put more faith in a level 18 6-item Faker on Kassadin than almost anything else.
Kog'Maw with Wits End, with Mercurial Scimitar,
so I think
with
you're trying to avoid
Janna
the fights,
Shen.
right? In that situation, I think you're trying to take over in a side lane. You're trying to find picks. Yes, but I mean, there's also like Jarvan is building for a split push style. To me, so much of this game came down to how Mountain played and how the 3-man core played, because the SKT, I think, is trying to spread the map. When you're going Ravenous Hydra J4, I think you're trying to be in a side lane. Building this cast, and I think you're trying to scale up and be in a side lane, and that's how SKT, I think, wanted to win.
I'm sorry, Crumbs, I want to get Frost in here before we go.
I'm ready to take off the kid gloves with SKT. I know what you're saying. It's Faker's Kassadin, but at the same time, if you cover up those nameplates...
They made mistakes.
Exactly. You look at that, if that was TSM playing, they'd be roasted alive right now, but we're like, it's SKT, 10K gold down, 9K gold down. They're always going to come back. At some point, they're not going to come back. If they keep playing like this, they run into Longzhu, it's done.
And to be fair, I wasn't saying that they shouldn't get criticism. I'm just saying if they got to the late game, they have options.
We want you to hate them now.
All right, AHQ, they pulled off a big upset against SKT. Rather, we're going to head over to Shocks for a word with their man in the mid lane.
Thank you very much, guys. We are here with Westor after a fantastic victory from AHQ. And, well, after a shaky week 1, you guys take down the 3-time world champions SKT. How does that change your outlook of how the rest of the day is going to go and your chances of getting out of groups?
首先恭喜你获得刚刚那一场比赛胜利。那你们上礼拜表现可能不如预期，但是这礼拜第一场对上世界冠军他们，那你接下来对接下来的比赛有什么不一样的看法吗？你觉得打进8强的信心有增加吗？
今天就是打 SKT， 就是本来就预料到比较难打，但是我们今天会把目标重点放在就是最后场打 C9 的吧，所以能打赢 SKT 我们很开心，对，但是最重要还是在打 C9 的那个比赛上面。
We know that coming into today, our game against SKT would be hard, but we actually focused more on our game against Cloud9, which is our last game of the day. But we're still very happy to be able to beat SKT.
Oh, so it wasn't that much focus on the game, but did you still think, oh, well, today I'm just going to blind pick Fizz and win versus Faker and that'll be it?
今天早上起来就突然想到说，我今天要盲选菲斯吗？为什么会选菲斯这个角色？
为什么会选菲角色？就是因为因为他们都很相信我玩这支英雄，他们说我玩这支英雄长得不太一样，然后。虽然我自己不是很有信心，但是队友跟教练都很相信我，所以我们今天就决定拿出这套阵容来对付 SKT。
So my teammates trusted me that I would be good on Fizz, even though I'm not so sure myself, but they really trusted me, so that's why we went into today's game with Fizz.
I think you're becoming pretty legendary on Fizz. Congratulations on a great first match, and also from the entire broadcast crew. Congratulations on becoming a father, Westor, and congratulations and good luck in the rest of the day. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, it'll be EDG up versus C9. Don't move.
Let's see for the CC comes from. There's the permafrost as well. Chumba wants his tags from a good distance. First blood to Westor.
拉露露可以杀露露。
这波小心点，拉露露打不了，
扶起来，可以扶起来。
AD。还没打，
可以扒龙哦。
Nice.
Ben continues to get zoned away by Mountain, while Hootie and Faker get shut down inside the Cataclysm. Faker's going to have enough time to Riftwalk one last time. AHQ, they're not being challenged. SKT, they can't stop them. AHQ are onto the inhibitor. They've turned for the kills, trying to get 1 or 2 more. And AHQ strike down SKT.
I think people are worried about NA Week 2 because historically speaking, NA has always done well week 1, but not so well week 2. But good thing for us in Cloud9 is we're heading into week 3 because we played in the play-ins, so we have nothing to worry about.
Oh, I love that so much. Cloud9, because of the play-ins, are in week 3. Welcome back to Wuhan, China, host of the 2017 World's Group Stage. In our next match, EDG will be taking on the week 3 Cloud9. And they're looking to strike back after going 0-3 in week 1. They're going to be facing off against C9. And of course, for EDG, this is do or die. If they lose, they cannot advance to the quarterfinals. However, if they pull the miracle run, well, then the mathematicians have to figure out. Let's talk about EDG. They're starting on the blue side. Rusty, what do you think of the players and how they're going to change? Mouse, Clearlab, Scout, iBoy, and Mako.
I mean, nothing's going to change from the players themselves. You can see the roster there, but it's the middle lane that we're always going to look at.
Oh,
Scout's
yes.
a bit of an enigma, and we'll have to look at their opponents here on the red side this game. First, it's going to be Cloud9. The top lane Impact, jungle Contracts, mid Jensen, AD carry Sneaky, support Smoothie, and their coach Rebid.
Yeah, so just to remind, EDG have to win, do or die. If Cloud9 win here, they should... They set themselves up for potential tiebreakers at the very least. Let's talk about Scout a little more, Rusty. What do you think? Week 1, he had a great game against Faker, and then a counter game where he countered himself against C9.
Yeah, he was very hit or very miss, and it feels like the only consistency was that he was Lucian throughout all of that. And that's a big question mark. You know, will he be able to play that again? Perhaps. He still had some really high moments.
I'm always amused at death percentage orders because I mean, up the top of deaths, even though he's listed as 17th, he's actually dying a lot because he's trying to be proactive. He's getting a lot of pressure with The Lucian pick is an interesting one because I feel like EDG haven't played around their mid priority very well. Does that mean you choose a champion without mid priority? Does that mean you play around Scout better? These are the questions that these teams have to answer.
And that was a question that C9 found the answer to last week through the Shen that we mentioned earlier in the day. A good way to get rid of Scout's aggression, diffuse it completely, or beat it with better aggression of your own, compliments of the shields from Impact, and boy did they play that incredibly.
I mean, Impact just had a phenomenal game, and truth be told, Cloud9 stunned a lot of people with their performance in week 1. They had great early game, they had great decision making. I know, Papa Smithy, you're quite a fan of the level that they brought to this group stage.
Yeah, I mean, reviewing the games, I thought Cloud9 played the best of the teams here. Now, of course, SKT had the high highs, right? We'll remember the Wombos, but C9 had ordered draws. They also have different priority on champions to other people. Range junglers like the first banned Ezreal here are at a higher priority for Cloud9. I don't know if you ban a Graves, but things get very interesting when you see Ezreal first banned.
Yeah, certainly the case, and of course the expected bans from Cloud9. We're not really looking towards AD carries as a major focus between these teams. Scout, we mentioned him already. Contracts has been a standout player, but it's also working with Jensen, so a lot of the pick ban may revolve around those roles. However, that's usually the later part of the ban phase, especially between these teams.
I mean, at the end of the day, this week has been shattering NA expectations. Sadly, for the negative yesterday, but I think with Cloud9 at Worlds in general, it's not just a one-note Jensen team. Impact, Contracts have had big performances. Sneaky and Smoothie have been reliable, and I've been impressed with the drafts as well, so credit to Reaper. They don't read the game the same way. One thing I want to note, they have shown no priority on Jarvan. They are happy for their enemies to take Jarvan, at least as of week 1. I don't think things are going to change.
And it hasn't. Jarvan makes it through the pick ban phase. Janna is still up and available. Jarvan as well. We'll see what they decide to lock in. It is the Jarvan, Rusty.
Yeah, so they locked themselves in one of the LPL specials when you regard this champion. No Galio being removed from Summoner's Rift either is something worth considering. Scout can play more things than Lucian for everyone at home that doesn't really know what he plays. He does have a decently large champion pool. He just likes to work in a similar way to Doublelift with one champion. He plays the one champion.
And if Cloud9's on blue side, they're happy to first pick Xayah. Now, Xayah was banned here, but their Janna priority, like a lot of teams in week 2, has been going up and up. What are AD carry options open they could lock in here, or maybe just match what they expect to be a jungle matchup, because probably going to be clear love on the Jarvan.
And it's still the Twitch or the Kog'Maw for AD carries that stand to attention. Tristana as well, another big option if you want lane priority. And C9 have the choice of what they like, or they could pick a jungler here, depending on which they would prefer. The big thing that stands out to me is they choose Jarvan. EDG knowing that knowing they may not get the best support, and Janna statistically, and from what we have just seen, is the best support running around. Pretty big risk from EDG, and really good from Cloud9 to just pick it up.
Now, you talked about statistically, Janna coming into today, 76% win ratio here at World. Has another win under the belt, complemented by that Kog'Maw, as we just saw from the previous game, and Galio locked in, expecting that for Scouts.
Has actually been very highly banned the last couple of days after we saw a lot of it in Samsung's group a few days ago. It is actually a strong pick against the style C9 like to run, because if you're relentlessly invading the enemy jungle, Galio will react faster than basically any champion short of Shen when it comes to actually getting there. In fact, it's even faster channel time. We mentioned the ranged junglers. I think they'd prefer to hold it to later, but they're afraid of a second round ranged jungler ban, and they take first round Graves.
Yeah, wow, showing their hands super early here, you're right. They may have wanted to hold on to that one till later, but it's the solo laners to get the later game treatment here. Red side draft will be handy for C9 in that regard. EDG can start to attack certain roles here. Remember, the Galio can go top lane for Mouse if that's how they want to play this one out, dependent on what they see from Scout.
Shen, is it a ban? Is it something you consider? Do you let it through with what you're seeing on the table? Twitch is already taken off by Cloud9, and there's still 3 bans remaining.
It's something you consider. I definitely think Shen is an important pick here, but I'm not sure that they will ban it out. So once again, that means aggression usually through that middle lane, something that the Shen completely diffuse.
And now you're depowering a proactive invading jungler. No Shen to be there. A Galio to respond first. This was C9's bread and butter when they were winning, always having a rotational advantage. You can't really craft one with just the champions left open in the pool.
And that's the thing for me. What else do you actually pick for C9? Is it a mid laner that's got really strong lane priority that can come and help contracts? Another champion that EDG are either recognized or C9 are prepared to pick that can protect contracts as he goes around. I like this from EDG because once again, shields protecting contracts as he goes forwards is good to have.
Does Rise raise in priority here at all?
Another rotational champion that Jensen has shown proficiency on. It would sort of be a blind pick and sort of not at this point, given what's already been shown on the side of EDG, but if they're going to look to help contracts, which has been their way, they're taking a lot of time. They're going to hold the mid lane and just look for top lane priority, because at least Cho'Gath you can rely on. If it is the Galio matchup, has the true damage, potentially take him down, but push, push, push is the Cho'Gath way.
Yeah, Cho'Gath is going to be a good pick here. Rumble already banned by C9, so Mouse should default to tanks, and that depends on where, of course, the Galio is going to be. Now, what I wanted to talk about here before this does get locked in at all is it might be a Taliyah on the opposing side, which is why Lucian's a possibility.
I completely forgot about Taliyah as well. Champion that has been very, very important in many of the other groups that have taken place. So the Maokai locked in, going to be in Mouse's hands, most likely up in that top lane. Leaves us with the AD carry option left for iBoy. I completely forgotten that Tristana had fallen by the wayside. And Caitlyn was used exceptionally well yesterday. Rusty, which do you think it's going to be?
Should be Caitlyn. If it's Vayne, I will be shocked. Yeah. Vayne's very good into Cho'Gath, but he's against a Kog'Maw out. So Vayne would just lose that lane. It would not be a good time. Caitlyn has much more control, can work with the Lulu. That's a pretty potent 2v2.
And it's definitely assuming some things, but this is the second Chinese team this week that has gone back to the Caitlyn, thought gone after the nerfs around patch 7.18. So it will mean that in the 2v2, whether it was Kog'Maw or Twitch, Caitlyn will more than not have lane control. We wondered about the Rise. The Taliyah being open is another one to consider, but I think Rise makes a lot of sense for them. It does mean that multiple they are around that realm warp can be grouped in. I still expect C9 to be on the front foot, but EDG have read Cloud9's Worlds 2017 group stage tendencies, and they have a strong draft to answer the questions C9 were posing last week.
It certainly feels like a lot of what EDG have sculpted for themselves in this game, not the last time that these two teams faced, is much better prepared and much more well-equipped to deal with Cloud9. However, C9's composition is still incredibly strong. Rise can clear waves decently fast, about the same speed as a Galio early. That means they're both going to be unlocked as mid laners to help the junglers, but the junglers is a Graves into a Jarvan. That's all in C9's core.
Let's see how well Contracts can unlock his team. Led, from the front last week. A lot of invades. Actually had the highest counter jungle percentage of all junglers last week in terms of that first week of group stages. And, first year, iBoy has not played Caitlyn at all this summer in the LPL.
I can't help but smile at seeing the old EDG coach and of the current one, old friends, Reapered and Nofe. It's a different draft for Cloud9, and also, you do have to think, we wondered about Graves when it was locked in. How will it kill the tanks? There are some ultra tanks on the side of EDG, so the late game Graves play, I don't think it's the focus for C9. It's still pre-25 minutes where they feel like the match will be won.
Yeah, last time we saw Contract play Graves, he had a last whisper, he had the whole kit and caboodle when it comes to dealing damage. No tankiness whatsoever, susceptible to death, but not when you're that far ahead, and that's what he's so good at doing.
Yeah, I think he had the Shin that game as well, if I recall correctly, helped in his favor. So, EDG, Edward Gaming, the #1 seed from the LPL, led by the backbone, the spine, clear love. It is do or die. Lose here and you are out of World 2017. You do not advance to the knockout stage. And you throw this entire group into disarray and excitement.
EDG in their home country, Clear Love in his hometown. The crowd is absolutely behind them, but they are 0-3 and they need to start with a bang.
So you see EDG grouping as 5. One of the few ways this game can snowball out of control is a jungle advantage